We all go through seasons where we feel an abundance of motivation, then something happens. We feel burnt out or tend to lose that drive, but don't let this stop you from living your dream. It is okay, and it's normal to feel this way. Once that happens, it is up to you to find that momentum again and gain the motivation you are looking for. I don't know about you, but when I feel unmotivated, I feel useless. I feel empty and almost like a zombie. If you surround yourself with inspiring people and positivity, I guarantee you that you will find your motivation. If you allow yourself to be drawn to negativity and you stay there, negativity will always surround and consume you. When you fall, you just have to get back up and try again. You have to tell yourself that you cannot give up when something doesn't go as planned. If you're passionate about something, you will not allow yourself to give up. Without struggle, there is no progress. Work hard, stay passionate, and stay motivated. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Staying Motivated. In this week's episode, I had the opportunity to talk with Tyler Babin, and Tyler is best known for his work with Gary Vaynerchuck as well as his Adobe residency. And after his Adobe residency ended, he went on to do YouTube full-time, and that's currently what he's doing. And I had the opportunity to talk with him and ask him how he stays motivated. So let's jump into the conversation and see how Tyler stays motivated. Yeah, so this series that I've been doing is just called Staying Motivated, and I had the first episode that I did on a hard drive like 3 years ago, and I never did anything with it. But with this whole quarantine thing, I felt like it was a good time to sit down and do it, just because I had the time and I felt like we all needed a little bit of motivation. So I sat down, put the first episode together, and the first episode that I filmed wasn't on Zoom. It was like an actual in-person interview, but I felt like doing it over Zoom would help people stay motivated. Whether even though we can't be in person, we have technology to help us connect with other people. So that's kind of why I started doing it on the Zoom thing.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah,
I think it also just gives a lot more context. I always say, I hate doing audio only virtual podcasts because there's just so much that gets lost in expression and hand gestures and stuff like that.
Awesome. Yeah, so the first part's just kind of like an introduction, like who you are and what you do. So we can just jump into it if you're ready.
Yeah, for sure. You just want me to go off with it?
Yeah. And
cool.
And there's no time limit on answers. Just whatever you feel like you need to say. Just
nice. So my name is Tyler Babin. I'm a filmmaker and a photographer. I live in New York City. It's kind of the only job I've ever really had has been creating content, whether for myself or for other people and brands and things like that. I grew up in a pretty small town in Florida where the idea of making a full-time living as a creative just didn't really exist. Very just small town mindset. And I remember in my senior year of high school telling my history teacher that I was gonna be a photographer and a filmmaker, and she was like, that's great to have big ambitions, but when are you going to start getting realistic? And that just never made sense to me. I was like, I'm being way more realistic than I think anyone else is. I'm actually going to go try and do something that makes me happy. And so after kind of jumping around and just spending a lot of years learning and practicing my craft, when I was about 22, I had the opportunity to move to New York, and I took an internship at a big ad agency in New York, which turned into about a 3-year job, sort of traveling all over the world and making videos every day. And that's where I really kind of honed my craft, I guess, and sort of tested myself in deep waters. And then left that job just a little over a year ago, took on an opportunity with Adobe where I got to just kind of pursue my own creative passions for a year. And then that ended just about 3 months ago. And so I'm 3 months into being a full-time YouTuber and content creator.
Awesome. And how did you get into photo and video?
Yeah, it was funny. I put out a video the other day where kind of someone had asked when I decided I wanted to be a content creator, and there was never an aha moment of I just want to go do this.
Yeah.
Literally from 8 years old, my family got the first digital camera, and I was just kind of obsessed with it, and I started shooting everything. And then
Nice.
that kind of transitioned into, I got really into making like videos and skits with my friends through like middle school and high school. And then there were these tons of like weird ebbs and flows where like whenever I got out of high school, I decided like I wanted to be a fashion photographer. Like that's what I thought my thing was. And so my entire life, it was just like shooting more like editorial catalog stuff. I thought that I was gonna like move to New York and become a photographer for Vogue or something like that. And as soon as I got to New York, I realized I wasn't into that at all. And like fashion's weird. And so it's like, it just wasn't an industry I wanted to work in. And so that's when I kind of transitioned into, I don't even know what I call my work now. I'm still trying to like get a good definition of it, because when people ask me what I do, I'm not really sure what to say. But it's kind of been like since day one. Like I can't really remember much of my life where I didn't have a camera somewhere around me or was interested in like creative arts like that.
That's awesome. And I've talked about this on another episode. Like when you're like, say, like I do a bunch of like concert photography, and I can't go to a concert and like thoroughly enjoy it unless I'm taking photos. Do you feel that way if you go to certain events?
That's interesting to hear. I actually really try and separate those two things from my life. Like I sort of have to either be in the mode of creating, or the flip side is like be very much in the moment. Like if I'm going to an artist that I really, really love, if I'm going to that concert, I don't want to have a camera with me because I just want to like exist in that moment as much as I can. Versus if I know I'm doing something for shooting, like I'm not going to consume really anything from like a music perspective because I'm going to be so in the moment of like capturing and trying to document whatever I am. So I try to like treat it a little bit more like an on-off switch of like, I'm either fully all into creating in that moment, or I try and disconnect as much as I can, because I want to try and like limit how much I'm like living everyday life through like a digital device. Which is something that, especially as I've gotten older, that's kind of become more apparent, which is like, I'm totally cool with having a camera with me everywhere and I'll always like shoot photos, but I'm trying to like spend more time just like very much in the present moment that I can.
That's awesome. That's actually a good thing to do. I feel like sometimes I don't do that, and I feel like I need to do it more often.
I don't know. I think there's like positives and negatives to both. You know, just think about how many moments that I was like, oh, I'm just going to live in the moment today. Like there might have been a moment in that day that I was going to be like not having a camera, where I may have like, maybe the greatest photo I was ever going to take was going to happen on that day. So I don't know. I think everyone has to kind of decide for themselves what they want that to be.
Nice. What are some of your biggest passions?
I mean, I consider myself a storyteller, like first and foremost. You know, I don't, even though I often find myself in the like photographer, videographer scene of like YouTube and things like that, I never wanted to like make content about content. You know what I mean? Like I'm working on a camera review right now, which is like, to me, camera reviews aren't the most fun thing to work on. Like I'd rather like go on an adventure and tell the story of the adventure while I'm making a camera review. And so trying to figure out how to tell like the most interesting creative story around this camera, but also reviewing it at the same time is kind of like where I'm trying to get to, because that's at the end of the day, like I like telling stories. And everything that I do in my life, whether it be like, I don't know, like I really like skateboarding and design and stuff like that, but it all circles around the idea of wanting to tell different stories around either a people, a place, or a thing.
That's awesome. And like, you're really good at telling stories, that's for sure. Cause like, I think that's what like drew me to your content in the first place, was like, cause like anybody can like take a photo or like record a video, but it's like putting it together in a way that draws people's attention is more appealing to me than anything else.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I think that's kind of where like the future of things are going as, technology continues to get better and better. It's like anyone has a phone, and a phone nowadays is like a better camera than what most professional photographers had 5-10 years ago.
Exactly.
You know, and so the like barrier of entry, the barrier of success is no longer the gear or being able to like take a properly exposed photo or video, but it's like, what are you going to do with it once you have access to that technology?
Right. So what motivates you?
It's a good question. Don't know if I have a good answer for it. I think for me, I just want to like do my best to like live the most full life that I can. And I think whenever you get a really good grip on the opportunity you have, whenever you get to live life, like why wouldn't I just want to like get up every morning and like chase that thing? Mm-hmm. I have the words Memento Mori tattooed on my forearm that I have to like see every single day, and which is Latin for remember your death, which is like intense whenever people ask what it means. And I'm like, it's a little sketchy. But it's, comes from like Stoic philosophy, and that, you have like one opportunity. And so I don't know, like there's definitely moments where sure, like I might want to not work and like just play video games for a day or something like that. But I just never want to like spend any time not doing the thing I want to do. And I think in order to live a life like that, you have to work a lot. You have to stay motivated. There's not a lot of time for downtime and stuff like that. You have to be very intentional with all those things. And so I wish I had a better like thing to grasp onto, but I think it's just gratitude for the opportunity I have and wanting to take full advantage of it.
That's awesome. What helps you stay motivated when you start feeling unmotivated?
I mean, I do my best if I have the ability to not do whatever is like not motivating, right? So if I wake up and I'm just like 100% do not want to make a video that day, do not want to take pictures, I just won't do it. As long as I'm not like under some kind of crazy deadline or if a client's expecting something from me, which is the thing I love about being able to like do YouTube and stuff on my own, is I have that kind of flexibility, because I'm terrified of growing to like resent the thing I love. Like if I am not in the mood, not in the mood at all to make a video, and I still like push myself down that path, it's not enjoyable. Like I'm probably not going to want to make a video the next day either. And so then that's not to say like you shouldn't push through creative blocks. Like I think a lot of people will like hit a creative block and just be like, oh, not feeling it. Like I'll dip out and do something else, like push through those moments. But you kind of have to just like know in your gut, like if it's not a motivating day, like give yourself space, do something different. Because I think oftentimes if you just switch up the activity you're doing, for me, like I'm really interested in like music, and I have zero musical talent whatsoever. So I just spend a lot of time like learning and watching and trying to understand music theory and things like that. I'll like switch over into like music mode for a day. And then oftentimes that will, as soon as like I get the ball rolling, something will switch back and inspire me into like photo or video or whatever I'm doing. And like, I'll get that like hit of motivation again. But I think one of the worst things you can do is like, if you are like at your core, not motivated whatsoever, try not to push yourself into doing that thing, especially if it's something like in the creative field that you love, like figure out like a way to just like find that motivation somewhere else.
That's awesome. What advice do you have for staying motivated?
I think like understanding why you're doing something is really important, and making sure that you're picking something you genuinely love and not something that's just like something that you like the idea of more than anything. So like I did an AMA on YouTube the other day, and someone had sent me a question. It was like, I really, really want to be a photographer, but I hate taking pictures and practicing photography. And I was like, well, then I think you picked the wrong thing. You have to, I was like, that's someone who is way more in love with the idea and like the clout that comes along with photography than the actual practice of like going and doing the work. And so I think as long as you pick the right thing, it's much easier to stay motivated. Like you'll find something you really love. I always say like, if the phone rings right now and it's someone who calls me and says, by the way, you can never make another dollar in your life with a camera, and you actually can only work at Starbucks, I'm going to be like, cool, I'm going to go to Starbucks tomorrow and do my job. And then I'm going to come home and like figure out how to make videos on the weekends. It's just like, cause I love cameras. I love telling stories. That's like my thing. And so, I think oftentimes if like you're really, really consistently not motivated to do something, you need to take a step back and be like, all right, do I really, really love what I'm doing? because if you really, really love it, the motivation should be there. And if not, maybe you need to adjust. And that doesn't mean it has to be like a dramatic change. I'm not saying like give up on your dreams. You're not going to be a photographer or whatever that is. But it's like, all right, maybe you're more of like a curator. Maybe you want to be a photo editor for like a magazine who like sorts through photos, just figure out what in the lane of the genre of the thing you want to do is the most inspiring and motivating to you. And then I would say you go all in on that.
That's awesome. So that was basically what I had for the conversation, but like any like last words you want to tell people and anything that you want to like plug or shout out, you can do that at this time.
Oh, cool. I would love to talk with everyone. So feel free to DM me on Instagram, or you can reach out on YouTube, which is like the place I'm most active right now. And we'll, progressively become even more active on. So I'm excited about that. I think, in this whole conversation around motivation and staying motivated and stuff like that, again, I want to instill that this is a weird moment. No one had like prepared or planned for what this like block of time was going to represent. And no one, I think, even understands where we're at in the stage of it. Like it could, things could go much longer. They could be over in like a shorter amount of time. We don't know. And so, as we were talking about earlier, using like it's your decision, I think, in a lot of ways, how you treat this opportunity in time. Like if you have the, ability that, or not the ability, but if you're healthy and happy and you're kind of flowing and you're like just waiting things out right now, you are in a substantially better position than a lot of people in the world. And so you should go all in on the things that are inspiring to you and motivating to you. And this is an opportunity to dig into other things that you're interested in and see how much you can like come out of this a better person, because you sort of have that opportunity right now.
Awesome. I appreciate you taking the time to do this for me. I know I've been asking you a while ago, but I'm glad we finally got the time to do it.
Yeah, no worries, man. I'm glad you stayed on me about it. Yeah. Make sure we got it done.